Great.
Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day. We have Nicole on today, and Nicole, we're going to talk to her because she earned more money in 1 month than in 20 years of network marketing. And I find that to be really awesome to see a shift. So say Nicole, say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, now before we get into the questions, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where do you live? What do you like to do for fun as a human?
I'm a stay-at-home homeschooling mom from Nebraska. I have 5 kids and 2 grandkids. Um, so I don't really have a lot of time for hobbies.
Okay, okay.
That takes up a lot of time.
All right, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your business. Now, we met in October, right? No,
Right.
November is when you started our mastermind, but I think you'd been around in our community for about how long before that?
Well, probably 3 months-ish.
3 months? Okay. So before we met, what were some of the problems? How long had you been in network marketing and how many companies? Sorry
Well,
to ask these questions, but they're just an important part of the story. I know it's like, no, I
well, I'm 47 years old
don't.
and
Okay.
I fell in love with network marketing when I was about 20. So my kids growing up, they would come with me with a wagon, passing out brochures, and I don't think I had any sales other than my own for over 20 years.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. So why do you think that is? Like, what were the things that were hardest for you?
I really felt like I could just pass out a catalog and people would fall in love and buy things. I've always felt awkward. I was diagnosed ADHD later in life. So I just felt like I could just hide behind catalogs and didn't realize customer service was more than just a problem with a
Yeah.
product.
Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the problems you were hoping to solve when you joined the mastermind where we worked together on your outlines?
I just felt like a giant failure. I didn't know um, the words to speak to people, how to introduce the products. I felt like I just would word vomit all over my friends. Just email, hey, I got this sale out of the blue. And of course, no one responded. It was spammy and icky, and I really wanted to learn a better way to speak to people.
I have to know, why didn't you give up on the whole thing?
You know, I've always wanted something of my own.
Mhm.
I had my first son at 20, so I wanted something on the side from my regular job that was just mine. Yeah, so even though I didn't have success, I thought maybe if I tried a different company or a different product or a different way, I would finally find the thing.
The thing. Okay. So maybe we kind of found the thing, but it wasn't a thing. It was unlocking your skills, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So what have you implemented that has helped with this? And some of those things learning in customer first sales mastermind, but what were some of the things that helped?
Um, we we learned to um, create our sales conversation in a template form,
Mhm.
and that really helped with the awkwardness. So I wouldn't always be in sales mode anytime I had a conversation. And it really helped me learn cues on when to stop, what to say next, how to word something to get either a yes or no response,
Mhm.
which for me, that was so valuable. Just learning the right words to ask someone to keep
Yeah,
a conversation going.
that's awesome. So what have been the results?
In 1 month during the mastermind, I exceeded all the sales that I'd had in 20 years.
It was like
Um,
I remember 16 sales in 1 month.
yeah,
Is that
in
right?
1 month. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's awesome. you earned 2 rank promotions and a
Yes.
sales bonus
Yes.
and a reward from your team leaders. So how did that feel?
It felt phenomenal. I couldn't believe it. And to be able to show my husband, who has put
Yeah.
up with all my little sales ventures, I get a little jewelry piece as a reward in the mail, and I could say, look, it's not
Yeah.
just a paycheck, but it's also I'm being recognized. And it just felt wonderful. And to be able to have something tangible, not just money, but just the rank and I also had 16 customers that trusted me. That
Yeah.
was
Well, and that feels amazing, right?
it does,
Okay, so
yes.
I'm sorry in advance if this question makes you cry, but how do your kids respond to this shift for you?
They don't even notice, honestly.
Really? Did you
No.
tell them?
Um, I haven't really explained too much, but they don't real my younger kids don't really know the history of it.
Ah,
My oldest son, though, who remembers the wagon, he's really impressed.
he was, yeah, that's good. Well, I just know that like they get so proud, like we're so proud of them, they get proud of us in the same way. So I was curious how they responded. Now you mentioned wording,
Yes.
and I know that you did the templates. Those are some of the actions that you took. Can you talk a little bit about math?
Yes. This is my favorite part that I've learned in the mastermind because it was always so easy for me to hear a no and just be crushed and not really know how to proceed. Where now I understand I have to ask so many people before I'll get a yes or a maybe or a tell me
Mhm.
more. Um, so and it also makes me not look at each conversation as a dollar sign,
Oh, nice.
which was so important for me because even though they were people I loved and cared about, I still wanted a sale.
Yeah.
So it really helped humanize the process for me. I know that it makes me sound bad in the past, but I was just so hungry for a sale and not to take advantage of anyone, but I just didn't have the skills. So now
Sure.
I know I have some skills, and if they're not interested, it's not a reflection of me. So that's helped
Yeah, I
my
think that's good. I don't think that makes you dehumanized. I think that's like everybody, right? So we want to make an impact. We want to help people. So we want them to have the products because we know that it'll make them improve their quality of life. We know that it'll earn money. We want to be successful and impactful, right? So if we're not making sales, what are we doing? And so it gets all right. Like, and if you don't have the wording to back up what you really mean by that, it comes out a little bit weird. Now, um, I think everybody in the industry like that, it's a numbers game, right? Is something that people say a lot.
Mhm.
Like, don't take the note, like all those things that you said, I think are running through the industry without a lot of explanation or intelligence. They're just like these platitudes. And so I
Definitely.
think a lot of people feel like, well, if I just play pin the tail on the donkey long enough, I'll end up hitting the tail. But that's not what you're talking about. So can you talk a little bit more about what were some of the wording things that you have now implemented that make this work?
Um, Definitely giving an out um, asking for a sales conversation or during a sales conversation, making them feel okay. We're still friends
Yeah.
if they don't purchase from me. Um, and definitely acknowledging the awkward
So
that
like
has
how do you do that? So if I was your friend, and not to put you on the spot, but I think you're gonna nail it. So I'm your friend and we're out and about. How do you acknowledge, like what does that actually feel like or sound like?
well, for me, I've always felt really awkward. So I felt like I had permission to just be me. Um, I can't think of an exact wording example, but I interrupt a lot.
Okay.
So I'm able to say, I'm sorry, I get really excited about this topic. So pardon my awkwardness. And so I think I've given myself a lot of permission that way,
Yeah.
to just be me. And that's what's helped.
And almost, it sounds almost like teasing yourself about it, which
Yes.
which takes off the edge, right? So if someone were to come up to me and said, "I'm just really excited. I'm sorry for interrupting." That's
Mhm.
endearing as opposed to just having someone interrupt you
Right. Right.
is like kind of frustrating. But if you're just like, "I'm so sorry I interrupted you again." We did this thing in our house every night, or most nights we do, like, what are 3 things you're grateful for in our family? And what'll happen is one person will say something, someone will interrupt and ask a question or add something. We did this thing where anytime you interrupted, you had to do burpees. And it was like a way of acknowledging the interruption was endearing as opposed to you are bad, right? It was like, haha, you interrupted.
Oh,
Because I think it is because of excitement or desire for connection. It's usually, not as malicious as it feels. So I love that. And then how would the choice, like you said, you mentioned giving them choice or no response is okay. Like, how did that play out?
that it's made previous sales conversations kind of, oh, how can I put this? Um,
So
it made it a lot,
what does it sound like?
it sounds a lot less spammy. It sounds like, I just wanted to let you know I have this new release. If you're interested, let me know. If not, no worries. We're still friends. So,
Love that.
that's just opened up so many more doors for me, feeling more comfortable to reach out and have these conversations.
Yeah. So, couple things. So first, you are like, I'm actually giving you choice. If you're interested, cool. If not, no big deal. Either way, we're still friends. So
Mm.
that's increasing your outputs. Is it changing the responses that you're getting?
Definitely. I'd have the way I would basically just spam people with an ad
Okay.
expecting, oh, great. And of course they didn't, and they're more like, oh, yuck, and maybe not answer at all. Um, so this way, at least I'm getting an answer. They're not feeling spammed on, and I've also reached out to a lot more people that way.
Yeah.
I feel more
So both.
comfortable to reach out more than I did before.
Yeah, that's
So
great. And I want to like highlight those 2 things. So what, because we talked about the wording and we talked about the math, and the 2 things go together.
yeah,
So if your wording is crappy, right, you're going to be resistant to doing outreach because you're likely a good human. So then
right.
there's this like shame issue in the industry where it's like, why aren't you reaching out? And internally, you're like, this is not good. Can't reach out. And
Right.
then the industry is like, you have a crappy mindset, you're the problem. When
Yes.
actually the terrible wording is the problem.
Right.
Because like, what if you were right this whole time? What if that internal thing that says, what I'm saying doesn't feel right? Instead of listening to other people to say you have a mindset issue and you're wrong, what if it's like, no, you're actually right. Those are crappy words and those will ruin your relationships and it's not helpful. And so I think what people do, they'll either like just use all the bad words, not bad words, but like the poor wording, either have a lot of action and be frustrated, right? Or they'll have no action because they don't want to mess up their reputation in the community and they think they're the problem.
That's exactly where I was.
Was it?
Oh, yes. I'd be like, okay, I have a mindset problem. I'm going to message 10 people. And I'd have a horrible spammy message to them, and no one would respond. And then I would just stop because I didn't want to, it felt like
Yeah, that's so
rejection,
good.
and it wasn't rejection of me. It was the poor sales
Yeah,
wording
yeah,
that I
yeah.
was using.
Yeah. So now if you were to reach out to 10, what
Mhm.
would happen?
Um, I would have maybe one person who doesn't respond, fine. And then I've been getting probably out of 10, um, about three yeses to more interest in the product or whatever.
That's awesome.
So
That's even higher than I would have calculated, actually.
really, yeah, I'm really excited by it, and I really feel like, especially acknowledging the awkward, I think has helped me the most, because it's helped. It seems to have helped other people that I'm reaching out to. Like, oh, good, I don't have to, be on right now because she's awkward too.
Yeah, so I went to this networking event. I don't know if I told you the story, and I realized I was the only one with shirts with sleeves. And I thought about that for a while, and I was like, I think it's because everybody has sweaty pits at networking events. And they had just been doing enough networking events to realize that the answer is sleeveless. And in starting to know enough high performers,
Mhm.
what I realized is I have not yet met someone who, once you get to know them, isn't super awkward. They're just skilled.
Yes.
And I started paying attention, and maybe this is just weird, to this concept of sweaty pits. And I would like, you're seeing professional comedians, right? Who have a rehearsed thing, sweaty pits on stage, right? Like all of, and I'm like, wait a second. I was so caught up in my awkwardness and my nervousness, I didn't even realize literally everyone is thinking the same thing. So maybe I could just let that go and turn it into endearing. And there is significant research that acknowledging a flaw, if being awkward is a flaw, acknowledging that increases trust versus decreases trust, because then they stop looking for chinks in your armor. So I think that's really interesting.
That's
Now, one more question just about, we don't usually talk about products. But like when we made, so I have a new hire sales trainer background, right? So I used to sell knives, used to sell education. Obviously, we sell coaching. We started in the health and wellness sphere when we created our outlines. And in the middle of the mastermind, you moved from health and wellness over to what would be considered, I guess, a commodity type product. Like it's low priced, it's not sold in kits. We use a kit model. Um, Typically people will just post pictures and be like, do you want to buy this stuff?
right.
You have used, like, can you talk about your sales process and how you've taken something designed for selling $200 kits to selling a $12, $15 fashion product? That's
Uh,
probably not the way you would explain it. I'm sure fashion product is not the right
oh,
term.
definitely. Beauty products.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful to your product line at all.
Not at all. At first, I was really, really nervous. I'd written my outline in a health and wellness company, and then I moved over here, and I was so excited. But I'm thinking, how will I use this template? But I was able to. We have a party format. We'll have a Facebook party, and then I will make sure that I'm commenting on each comment. I'll take it over to Messenger and use that wording in Messenger, and it really made an impact as far as getting on the same level with the customer
Mhm.
and being able to talk to them about the products and being more open to it. So I couldn't use a template exactly,
Yeah.
but the words that I learned were just so invaluable to keeping a conversation going. And that's really what helped me so much in my launch.
Yeah. Well, because I think the purpose is, okay, we want to make sure that people know what to expect. We want to make sure we're asking about them. We want to make sure that the company's presented in terms of problems versus our product is so awesome, right? We
Right.
want to give scenarios, right? With a
Hmm.
fashion product, you have all sorts of different scenarios that you're in where you're moving things out, and we want to offer packages versus individuals. So did
Right.
you offer packages versus individuals? I'm curious. If you offered individuals, that's cool. I was just curious.
I didn't, but I've since created kits
Oh, cool.
that I'm planning to roll out this month.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So now I can y-
Try
create the
that
full
one.
cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because I think of like a fashion product that I'm going to have different scenarios throughout the next 6 months where I'll want to switch things out. We had a client who did Stamp It Up, who's like, absolutely no way on earth are these people going to take packages. And I
Mhm.
was like, try it. And out of the gate, the first week, she sold a $600 package because like there's a certain percentage of people that are just like, do you want the whole collection? And they're like, yeah, I want the whole collection.
Wow.
And we're the ones who keep people from doing that, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
when you signed up for our stuff, you bought I think the whole collection.
I did.
What you thought, right? And yeah, I'm really curious to hear what happens. And so I also just want to highlight, um, just by implementing like 3 out of the 5 things, you saw record sales,
Yes.
award-winning sales. So I want to give that as encouragement to anyone who, you take an 8-week course. And I think there's a lot of people in the group that were like, I have to do this perfectly.
Yes.
You did not. Right. You did like half of it.
I did.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between implementing half of a training course versus all or nothing mentality? Because I think that's a huge part of why it worked for you.
Well, I didn't turn in my homework, or some of it wasn't exactly the way, because like my company is a little bit different. Um, but I still studied and used the words that were
Mhm.
in each template, um and I had to convert it to
Yeah,
this new type of different type of company.
right.
I don't
And so
really
it
know.
worked out just fine. Yeah. So can we talk about the parties? So we did referral and hosting week.
Yes.
And I was like, have write out this host ask, this referral ask, and this one, right? Like there were 3. How
Mhm.
many of those did you do? I
I
remember. You don't remember.
I don't remember.
You did 1. So I remember you were on the coaching call and you were like, oh, my wins. I booked like 3 or 4 parties, right? Using the words.
Yes.
And I was like, hold on, everyone. Let's stop and ask Nicole some questions. And you just like laughed just like that and said, well, I didn't even finish the homework. I only did 1 out of the 3, but I just used the one that I did and I booked all these parties. And I was like, yes, people, like that is entrepreneurship in a nutshell. Um, it's imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. That's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, not by me. Um, and that was just a really good example of like how to win at this entrepreneurship game, because I think some of us will read a book and we'll say, well, I can't do anything until I've implemented every single word in this book. Or what encouragement would you give to others that get caught up in that?
Oh, I will admit that I am a training junkie. I've gotten all of the free things that I could get my hands on. I've started all the books, not finished all the books. Um, but actually implementing. This was the first training that I've ever done that I've actually felt like I could implement. And then once I started and it worked, there was just no stopping. And it's like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. I can just roll in it. And it's just been so empowering.
Why do
Even
you think you were able to implement this time around? Because I think that's a huge objection that people have, right? I think there's a lot of people listening to this who do the same thing, right?
mm, yeah.
Why do you think that your implementation, because Karen and I were just talking about this yesterday, why do you think your implementation in this situation was different?
I think a lot of free training or even paid training is so much mindset and attitude, and you just have to get out there, but they don't actually tell you the steps. They don't tell you what to say. And this way, we have a template and we're plugging in our own information. But in that process, it's all becoming second nature
Yeah.
to us. So it's the first time that I've actually learned skills in any sort of training.
Yeah, I love that. So
Yeah.
overall, what are the lessons that you learned from all of this that you're going to take forward?
Oh, that I am free to be my awkward self. Objections are not a personal or are not personal against
Mhm.
me. And I can just enjoy the process finally.
Yay, I love that. What advice would you give to other network marketers based on what you've learned? Oh, you've also started some distributors too, right? Or
I
just
haven't yet.
not yet.
I haven't
Okay,
yet.
so that's next. Okay, well,
Yes.
it's 1 month.
Yes.
Um, what advice would you give to other network marketers based on what you learned?
I wish I could tell people just to turn off all the noise of the people telling you it's you, it's your attitude, you don't want it enough, you're not trying hard enough, and just really think about this where you're lacking in skill and celebrate each win. And for me, we've talked before about having an impact journal and um, making an impact on other people. And also, I've also been keeping track of my money making activities versus just doing all the trainings
Yeah.
and all of the homework and just actually implementing.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Nicole, for taking the time to share all of this with us. And we can both show up as our super awkward self on this particular interview. I hope that this was encouraging to all of you. Give Nicole some love in the comments if you're catching this on the internet, on Facebook or social media or Instagram or whatever you're on. And then if you guys want more info on the Customer First Sales Mastermind, it's just a 9-week, really simple, we go one step at a time skill development course. Just go ahead and let us know in the comments. Just say like, I'd like info on the mastermind and we'll message you and all that. So thank you so much, Nicole. This was really a fun conversation. We appreciate you putting yourself out here and sharing your story with people. I know it'll be an encouragement to a lot of people.
Thanks so much, Tasha.